I'm Camille from Chicken Scratch and Sniff, where I share all kinds of LDS helps. You can find me at cknscratch.com. Hi, welcome. Today we're going to talk about if you are teaching the lesson from Howard W. Hunter, Chapter 2, which is My Peace I Give Unto You. On Tuesday we talked about Chapter 1, and so today we're going to talk about Chapter 2. If you missed it, don't worry, it's up on the blog still, so you can watch it there. Thanks for joining, you guys. Welcome, welcome. Before I jump into this one, we'll go ahead and take the time to share this with your friends if you know that they're going to be teaching this as well. But I also wanted to just reiterate, since it's the beginning of a new year, we have more new teachers and things, that I like to share lots of ideas and lots of thoughts. But just because it's a great idea doesn't mean it's a great idea for your ward. So please keep in mind that the reason why I share so many ideas is because it's to help you think of what's right for your ward and your class and your sisters or brothers, okay? So keep that in mind, tweak it to your own needs, share your ideas, come to our private Facebook group and get more ideas, and so you can figure out what's right for you. So today, Howard W. Hunter, Chapter 2, My Peace I Give Unto You. I'm going to share 4 ideas today. There's more up on the blog and, of course, in our Facebook group, okay? So number 1 is with this guy. Hey, Mom, you should be cleaning. So this guy up here, one of the things I wanted to talk about is peace and the deceptions that come with peace. And one of the things that you can start your lesson with as well, or some point in your lesson, you can talk about Satan's deceptions of peace. Because Satan wants us to believe that peace only comes from things around us. So if we have a fight with our sister, and there's hungry people in Africa. Well, that didn't feel right, but you get my point. And I should be helping you, I know. Or if there's no lights, like there's a blackout, that means that you can't have peace. Okay? And so those are just really simple examples, right? But there are things going around us all the time. And if there's things that aren't perfect in your life, Satan wants you to believe, then you can't have peace. And that's absolutely not true. And that's one of the points in the lesson, is that it doesn't matter at all what's going around you. You can go out and you can buy books about how to make up so you don't fight with your sister anymore. You can turn the lights back on and you can feed all the people in Africa. But you can still not have peace. It doesn't matter if all these things go away. You can still not have that feeling. And so where it starts, obviously, is on the inside. And so that's just a way that you could talk about it in your lesson, is that peace comes from within. It's always available. And it's always available because of Christ. Right, Mom? And the thing is that why that's an important thing to point out in your lesson is if you don't realize that it comes from, you can have peace within all the time, you're going to constantly turn towards outward sources to find your peace. So, and that's the thing that Satan is trying to do. He wants you to turn to the self-help books, and he wants you to turn to that $100 conference that weekend, and he wants you to turn to all these other sources, which can be good in themselves, but if they're not combined with the gospel of Jesus Christ and then are not leading you back to Christ, they're not going to lead you to peace. And that's the point of that one, okay? Now, here's another idea that you can do, and it takes a little bit of preparation, but not too much, so you can do it. Hi, Aaliyah, and thanks for joining. It talks a little bit about the light of Christ in the lesson and how Jesus has that light and how we need to turn to that light to find peace in our lives. And one of the points that I was talking about up on the blog, okay. Sorry, I'm going to go backtrack a little bit for this comment. So yeah, people go out and they buy new cars or they buy a bigger house because they're trying to fill that void because they don't have that peace. And so they turn to all those other things when it's not going to help at all. And so that's where the problem keeps constantly rolling and rolling forward. So that's a good point to bring up. Okay, so back to this light of Christ. It talks about how we have to turn to the light of Christ and how we need to go to that light in order to find the peace. And so one of the things that you can do in your lesson is that you can have a flashlight in your lesson. So I have a flashlight on in this room right now. You may or may not be able to see it, right? And If you can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means you're not facing in the right direction. So what you can do is so I'll show you mine, okay? We'll face you in the right direction. Can you see? Let's see. Can you see it yet? It's over here. Can you see my flashlight? Where, unless you're looking in the right direction, you're not going to see that light. And that light doesn't change. Christ is always there, but it's us that changes direction. And so you can talk about that in your class, and you can just put it in a corner of your classroom, like in the back where no one ever looks. And the lights are going to be on, so they're not going to pay attention anyway. And so then as you go through your lesson, you can turn off the lights and you can see how long it takes people to realize that there is another light coming on. Or you could ask people to go ahead and look for the light. And you can talk about directions and how if we're feeling that despair and we're feeling like the overwhelming from the world, that maybe we need to check our direction and what direction we're facing, because that light is constant and it's always, always there. We just need to get closer to it. Okay? All right, here's another one. So we talked about Satan's deceptions and the light. Okay, so here's another one. I briefly explained it up on the blog, but I thought it would be better if I kind of showed it to you. Now, you could cover your board in newspaper. Now, this isn't the top headlines. This is just an example, okay? But you can write down some of the top headlines that are going on in the world, or you could cover it up with newspaper articles of everything that's going on in your community. It obviously is going to show that there's not world peace yet, okay? It's not worldwide, but that doesn't mean you can't have it. So then, and don't spend too much on the negative, but you can talk about it a little bit. But then you can put up a picture of Christ in front of it. And look where your eyes automatically are drawn now. It automatically goes to Christ. These things are still here, but you're focused on Christ. And that fear goes away as you focus on Christ. And so what happens then is that you can talk about how our faith makes things not so scary, right? We replace our fear with our faith, but it also allows us to take action in, because we're not overcome with fear. And so you can talk about maybe some of these headlines, and then you can talk about ways that you can actually take action to help bring peace to your community. So don't just stop with, talk about actions that you can then take as a result of having faith in Christ, and how you can help bring that peace into your community. You can start with, how can you bring peace in your home? How can you bring peace in your neighborhood? How can you bring peace in your community, in your city, in your state, in your country? And you can go out from there and talk about really actionable steps that everybody can do, so that people can apply this lesson into their lives and actually take that step, and challenge them to do it and follow up with it the next time you teach. One of the biggest things that we have to do is follow up, so that those challenges we make on Sundays aren't just empty words, and then we have to go out and do it ourselves, so that we can share those examples. There's so many Facebook groups today that words have that you can talk about, and you can keep sharing and keep that conversation going to encourage people to take those actions, okay? All right, last one. I got to turn this back over. I think this one might relate more to the women, but I know quite a few men that could use this as well, okay? So let me erase my guide. If you have comments or questions, go ahead and put them on, okay? But, all right. You need this lesson today, good, Mom. That's the nice thing about this lesson, is that we can kind of discuss it a little bit, and those that don't actually get to hear lessons on Sunday can kind of learn from this as well. So one of the things that we do is we take our own peace away. And I'm going to show you how we do that. We can be keeping the commandments and things, but this is what happens to us, is that we start to see this wonderful person do something great. Maybe you saw them teach another lesson, and they talked about how they have family scripture study, and it sounded so amazing. And you're like, wow, that's so cool, right? That in of itself is not a bad thought. Here's what happens. Then we say, I'm not doing that. How come I'm not doing that? Okay, so we got a negative thought, right? And then we say, I'm not even trying to do that. I didn't even think to do that. There's another negative thought, right? And you say, there's no way I can even attempt to do that. I'm not talented enough, not like that person there. Another negative thought. And then we say, or if we do try it, if we get to that point and we do try it and we say, that was awful, I failed miserably, I'm never going to try those type of things again. I don't know what, she's way too good. There's no way that I'm ever going to get here. Okay? So basically, you can keep negative thoughts, right? And you can keep comparing yourself to other people. Okay? And what happens is you end up here in what I like to call the pit of despair. And so as we compare ourselves, we started with an okay thought that it's okay to enjoy other people's successes. But then we started comparing it and thinking negative thought after negative thought after negative thought about ourselves, and we took our peace away and ended up in this pit of despair. And that's something that we can constantly do, and we need to get out of that pit. So you got to stop comparing ourselves to other people, right? But we also need to be intentional in our positive thoughts, in our positive encouraging of other people, in positive, sincere congratulations to other people. And so we have to take control of our thoughts. So if you're thinking a pessimistic thought, to change that and figure out a way to change it to see the blessings and see the positives. And that's the thing that President Hunter talks about, is that there's no excuse to have pessimism in our life. There's no excuse for it. As Latter-day Saints, we shouldn't have it. We should be optimistic. We know the end outcome. We know why there's joy, and we know that we can have inner peace no matter what. And that in chapter 1, we can be happy, right, if we have Christ in our lives. And so there's no excuse not for it unless we're doing those things that we're not supposed to do, or we're not focusing on Christ. If we're not doing those things, then we can't have that in our lives. So you can talk about that a little bit and ways to get out of that pit of despair and to stop comparing ourselves to others and stop taking away our own peace. Like nobody else did that to us except for ourselves, and so we need to stop doing that as well. Okay, so those are just a few ideas. So we had Satan's deceptions, talk about that, and talk about why it's important is because we look to these outside sources, and we really can only look to Christ if we want to find peace. And so we got to focus on that. You can use this flashlight example. The light doesn't move, but we do, and so make sure we're facing the light. And then you can use the newspaper example with focus on Christ's picture. And then you can talk about this comparison spiral that we put ourselves in the pit of despair. And that's where it ends up. And so we got to get a ladder and climb back out of it. All right, so there's more ideas up on the blog. Come join our private Facebook group. You'll find all the links if you head here. And then share your ideas, share your handouts if you have them, and come and learn more. People look for popularity and get in trouble following the crowd. I agree with that too. And so you have to be brave enough to do it your own thing and to find your own peace and to understand that that peace is more important than following the crowd, right? Next Tuesday, we're going to come back and I'm going to talk about how to accomplish some of those family goals that you've set for the New Year's. And then next Thursday, we'll talk about chapter 3. So come back and we'll keep sharing those things. Thanks, you guys. Have a great week.